Hi, everybody. Welcome to Project 180. My name is Kevin McGowan. Today, I've got a new friend I'm chatting with out in the West Coast in the United States, Jeremiah Hammon. How you doing?
Great. Hey, everyone. I'm Jeremiah, and I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. I'm the author of the Project Management Pathway and the founder of the Project Revolution. I'm excited to be here,
Okay.
Kevin.
I'm excited to have you here, too, and I love the energy already. This is good. We're like elevating things. Fantastic. So tell me a little bit more about yourself, kind of where you are. I know the West Coast, but I
Yep.
specify if you want, and then a little bit more about your background.
Yeah. I live in Portland, Oregon, which is really fun. I love it because Portland has, that, like, people always say, Portland is, keeping it weird in Portland. And let me tell you something about Portland. It really does have a little dash of weird, but it has a
Nice.
a lot of beautiful, beautiful territory and country and infrastructure and artwork. And it's a very creative place, and I love it. And I moved here 10 years ago to work for a company called Vigor. And when I got here and I started working for Vigor, I started working in multiple industries around the area. And as a project manager, just so everybody knows, I'm a project manager, now program manager, and starting a business. And all of this, and an author, working on, I got a book I just released. And during all of this time, I learned some really, really fun things about, the industry and project management. And I found my passion and leadership and all these great things. And it's all because of this beautiful place I live in, Portland, Oregon.
That if that doesn't make it to like a Portland promo, I don't know what
I
we're
love it.
doing wrong. That's awesome. Thanks for that.
Welcome to
I know when we talked before, you're a consultant, you've got your own business, you're writing these books. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. One of the things we really focused on was about kind of switching from having project managers switch from a reactive space to more proactive space.
Correct.
So I think that which is a theme I think I've talked about with a number of people actually, because mm-hmm. I mean, you think in the context of a startup or a new organization, that whole storming side of the universe where things are coming together, but that doesn't always progress as easily or smoothly on your projects as maybe you wanted to. So I'm wondering what themes you've seen and what aspects you'd like to get into.
This is a great topic. See, one of the things about project management is that you have to learn how to be, proactive in a reactive environment, right? So it's like, how do you actually get in front of, all of the emergent requests that happen in project management? And a thing that's interesting that a lot of us run into is that projects are bid. A lot of the time we don't have all of the scope, and it's our job to find the scope, but a lot of places don't do the detail estimating, top down, bottoms up of the estimating to give us all the scope. Or if we're in like a tech industry where there's so many unknowns, it's up to us to figure out a way to be able to really understand all of the intricacies of planning and executing and how that really integrates together, and then how to really communicate and lead yourself and around other people to be able to really not be engulfed by emergent requests. And a lot of it comes through communication and how you, it's all about planning. And I say that because if you really go back to all the statistics everywhere, every statistic everywhere, what's the number one reason why projects fail? Bad planning or bad communication, right? Yep. So they're going to tell you planning or communication, number one reason why projects fail. So we already know the problem, right? So we already know the problems. So this is why things fail. So what we need to do is hyper focus more on that aspect, and we're going to get a better solution.
Well, let me, because there's a lot to dig in there.
Yeah.
When you say that planning is the reason that things fail, I mean, kind of obvious. There's like a piece we missed, or like new scope came in, or something was miscommunicated. Like, can we get more specific in terms of what about that planning process fails? Is it the communication piece generally that you see kind of more frequently, or is there another aspect of the planning exercises? Because everybody's going to try and come up with scope, and sometimes you just scope it wrong, or sometimes you just schedule it wrong, or the resources aren't available when you think they're going to be. Like, is there a particular theme that you've seen maybe more often than others?
Yeah. So really, this is a good question. It really boils down to two things. One, stakeholder management, and you have to have stakeholder synergy. When you get a project handed over, you absolutely have to know who are the people on your project, what is their level of power and influence, and what is their level of impact. You have to know that, because if you don't, and you're running around, you can have the best plan in the world, but not communicate it to anybody, and it's going to fail. You can have all of the strategy, and this goes back to culture. So even knowing who your stakeholders are, what influences, what needs do they have, that right there is so important, because then you can fulfill those needs, fulfill those wants. And by doing that, you're creating a culture that's has more synergy, and people want to work with you, want to be there, want to help your project. If you don't communicate, they feel left out. They don't feel like they're needed. They don't feel significant.
Yep.
And that alone right there will kill a project right at the beginning, because people will then, they have a job to do, and they're going to do it with or without you, with your input or without your input. And so if you don't communicate clearly with them and know what level they are on the spectrum of power versus impact, they're going to go do their job, and it's probably not going to be in line with your plan. And so you're going to start off in a reactive mode. And this is a very big thing. We talk about stakeholder management, and that's really what it is. It's being a leader, influencing the action of other people by handing them responsibility so they can take the appropriate action, and understanding what they need. That's a big one.
Well, it's a huge aspect, because stakeholders, and I like how you got into levels of influence and degrees of maybe even activity. Some stakeholders are going to be very engaged in a project because they're the client maybe, and want to get this thing, whatever it is, delivered on time.
Right.
But there's all these internal stakeholders, and then there's the competitive stakeholders as well on other projects that might also be impacting your resources. How do you kind of go that level up in organizations like you've got, I guess really, how does the left hand end up knowing what the right hand is doing in a larger organization where the resources are maybe shared?
Yeah.
Or even the decision makers and scheduling all happens maybe up here at this level, but all the work is being done lower on the org chart.
That's the power of the project manager right there. You have to have a CEO mindset. So for a project manager, when you get handed a project, you need to be able to understand both levels of influence, right? You have to actually understand lateral. So your circle of influence, just your allies right around you. And how am I going to leverage my functional matrix? How am I going to leverage these people? And then how am I going to be able to communicate up top and understand what they want? And that's the power of questions. I need to understand, being curious, leading with a curious mindset. I need to understand what they need. And then how am I going to actually then understand my team, what my team needs, and what do I need to give them in order for them to take appropriate action? That's why project management to me it's a game of leadership and influence, because you have to be able to 360 in all directions, understand your stakeholders and what they need. And that comes by asking questions. So when you get a project, you need to understand at the highest level, what is my scope and my risk and, quality requirements, depending on what industry you're in. But really, what do all my business stakeholders need to do in order for them to make this work at all levels of the org?
Interesting, because you're seeking this perfect state, right, as a project manager, and you're trying to create that. I guess maybe the next question I wanted to ask, in terms of your influence, how do you, if you feel you don't have the influence, right? If you're new in the role or in that team, or maybe you've just been promoted, or whatever the situation might be, or you've just been transplanted into this thing, how do you start building that influence, that connective tissue that will help on project A that you're working on right now, but then also other things are going to come, assuming things go well. Other things are going to come right later. How do you start building that connectivity with the team?
It's cool. It's there's tons of like models and methods out there that we can leverage at any time. And as a project manager, let's say, and every time we go into a new position, let's say that we're the new project manager starting on, we have to learn the organization. We have to leverage, different leadership styles, and we have to leverage different problem-solving techniques and questions, right? I go back to questions, leading with a curious mindset. And one of them is being empathetic. You have to literally understand tactical empathy. How do I go into an environment and understand exactly what people need, what their wants and needs are, their model of the world, and then how do I get leverage on that to be able to then influence them to take appropriate action? And there's models for this. There's things that we can do as project managers. So it's not just show up for work. See, project management isn't like, and this goes for business as well. Project management, business, we don't just show up and expect things to happen to us, right? We need to be making things happen. We control our destiny. We control our work environment to a certain degree. We are in control of ourselves, definitely. So we have to show up and make sure that we are constantly our best at our worst, and we're doing the work that we need in the background to learn how to um, really build relationships and interact with other people anywhere, anytime, every day. And this is the work outside of the job that you have to do. And this is where you have to you have to lead with a lifelong learner mindset. And people a lot of times show up and they believe to be a cog in the wheel. And it also depends on personality, right? You got your introverts and your extroverts. And so they just believe, I just want to show up and I want to have my head in the books and do a job. And by doing that, they might be in a different level, in a different bus, right? Different seat on the bus. But for the most part, as project managers, we need to leverage those models and different methods to learn how to have tactical empathy, to be able to step in and immediately extract information from people so that we can get people to take appropriate action.
I really appreciate where you're going in terms of empathy, the learning mindset, curious mind. There's a definitive human theme here, right? And that's what I've always found in terms of project management. It's almost easy, to look at the spreadsheet and say, okay, well, this has got to happen first, that happens next, that happens third, go down the list and fire off emails, ta-da, it should just happen. But obviously that doesn't work, right? So it's that human element, it's that leadership element that people have to really work with. And if you don't feel you have it, you need to find that somewhere inside you, right? I don't know, fake it till you make it or something, but develop some leadership skills yourself, because it's not just about leadership. Isn't just about managing a team. It's about influence. It's about developing that empathy and just relationships, right? It's about all the dealing with all the humans that you're dealing with in your organization.
That's totally correct. And it was funny you said fake it till you make it. And Amy Cuddy, and she's a psychologist, did a lot and studied, I believe, out of Stanford or Harvard. And she would talk about the power pose, right? She did a lot about, but she said, fake it till you become it. And there's so much power in that, because we talk about authenticity and different personalities. And it's like, well, you faking it, people get, a little bit, wrapped around the axle. Well, am I being authentic if I'm faking it? And it's like, well, no, if you truly believe that this is what you're supposed to do and life is about growing, then as we're constantly growing, you're faking it till you become it, which means you're still being authentic to yourself, because we want to grow constantly. And so a lot of people have to understand that it is that anything that you want to do in a leadership role or trying to really coordinate and connect with people, it requires a lot of work outside of just interaction. There's naturals, but to get to that next level, you have to work at it. And every executive leader, they go to speech classes and Toastmasters, and they go to leadership, and they have coaches, and they have all of these things that they're doing, because what got them there will not get them here. So they're constantly working on that. And project management has one of the most interesting, they're kind of in the middle, where they have to be everything and they have to consistently work on it. And in my book, I really focus on the human aspect of it, because it's like project management is 20% processes. It's 80% influencing and working with people. And so the book I wrote was all about, how do you actually really understand yourself? Because if you don't have it's all about emotional intelligence. How do you understand yourself at the deepest level so you can connect with other people at the deepest level? And then once you do that, you can then set expectations about how your world is going to interact, because you know all of your triggers, you know everything about yourself. And then you also see it in other people. And when you see that, you can then be like, wait a second, I'm seeing this kind of thing with them. I have the same feeling. You start being able to kind of really mold and really empathize with them. And there's different levels of that. But that's how you get that connection, and that's how you learn and grow with people. It's the self-awareness piece. So my book really talks about that, and then teaches people how to really be productive in a very reactive environment. How to absolutely 100% get in flow state, get things together when you're in an environment that's constantly chaotic.
Well, and I like how you brought it right back there, because I wanted to come back here anyway. So the whole theory of, I use fake it to make it as a handy rhyming idiom, right? But it's not really about faking anything. It's about learning, and it's about progressing yourself and kind of trying on something that maybe doesn't fit perfectly, but you'll grow into it, right? It's more like that, I see. But you've got all the slings and arrows of that chaos coming at you. but being that calm force
Mm-hmm.
that can just, yep, it's fine. Keep, the stuff is just going to keep coming at me. It's going to wash over you. You're going to find the right, little bits and pieces that you can organize and then, influence those and then, iteratively kind of keep moving forward. So but what's the risk? This is, I guess, final question because we have to wrap it in a minute. But in your view, what's the risk of kind of perpetually living in that chaotic state? If it's really just all over the place, it's hard to maintain for any length of time, obviously. But like, what do you see as the first step, maybe out of that chaotic environment where things are just constantly churning?
Here, this is interesting because some people love that. Some people thrive in that fire. They live there. They want the chaos. They like uncertainty versus certainty. They like that. It kind of helps them grow. And they like it because it's a chess game for them. They go in there and it's like, it's all about strategy and tactics. I mean, the world is chaotic. Business is chaotic. So you have to love it to a certain extent. But there comes a point where you have to know yourself and know what your threshold is and know what you can really handle. And it goes back to, and it's one of the things that, every time you read a book, you pick up a book on, what do you do when you're in a, stressful state? It's like, just breathe. Actually taking time, a mindful minute, a mindful 10 minutes, and just really centering. There's tons of studies on it, on breathing or going for a walk, moving, but getting your mind away from that for a minute empowers you. It ramps you back up so that you can go in for another round. And it basically deconflicts the stress within you. But you have to literally turn it off. You have to turn it off. So if we talk about your ultradian rhythm in the book, and you're finding your top time and your stop time, and it's really understanding how your body and your mind works when you're at your best. And then when you start ramping down and you start getting that tension where you're starting to get a cognitive load, how do I actually ramp this back down, but I still feel good and I'm not creating all of that sympathetic stress in my body, right? You get all of that the stress buildup that we have from life. And the way that you do that is that you plan, and this is like you plan and you honor it, little moments of recharging, of rest in your day. And you honor it. You tell people, you communicate to them, I need this time for me so I can be my best. 5, 10 minutes every hour and a half. You're doing that. And at the end of the day, you need to recharge and you need to let it go when you leave work. And that's another thing people almost can't do, is they need to then switch into, I got to be the parent. I'm going home and I got to be the parent. I got to be this. And if they can figure out the best way to be productive at work, they don't take it home. And that's something that I've worked really hard with people and been focusing on mastering. Like, how do you master maximal effort when you're in there, maximum output, maximum performance, and then going home, still having energy left in the tank so that we can then move on and enjoy our life with the things that we love, our family and our friends and our others and our significant others.
Okay, Jeremiah, thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah, no, this has been really exciting. Thank you for having me, Kevin. I really appreciate it. And we should do it again when we have more time.
We will. All right. Thanks, man.
All right. See ya, everybody. Thank you.